Standards for the Mental Health Psychology Professions. Chapter 1. Standards and Ethical Guides for Mental Health Psychology Professionals. Codes of Ethics for Psychology Counseling Mental Health Professions. You're there to help, not to make friends socially or to culture sexual and intimate relationships. Your role must be singly as a therapist. You can't have a dual/multiple role like also a relative, friend, lover, etc. There has to be a professional boundary. Your client is not your bud. You don't make small talk. You talk about problems. That's what you're paid for. You don't use your job to entertain yourself by patronizing clients, pretending you care when you don't. Maintain appropriate professional distance with students at all times. Act in the best interests of members of the public. Don't use your client for personal gain, like if he sells dildos, don't ask for a discount on your next dildo purchase or a freebie. Don't be in a close relationship with someone close to the client like your wife is the sister of one of your clients. It's too close. Don't exploit the trust or get the client dependent on you because you got a big ego. Don't sell your client's secrets to a media source. Don't take gifts. Don't get into business with clients. Don't troll clients on social media. Don't become infatuated with a client. Don't barter treatment for her stuff. Don't masturbate in your office even at night. Don't pretend you know more than you actually do. Don't act like a know-it-all nerd. Tell the truth that you know nothing more about life than any other generic asshole. Tell them that all that book stuff you learned did not give you any insight into human life and did not give you a warm-hearted, loving soul. Tell them the truth, you're a brainwashed, phony psychobabblist. Internet Therapy Guidelines/Telephone Therapy Guidelines. When you do internet therapy, you have to guarantee privacy by telling the client it will not be filmed and put up on YouTube. You need privacy for email, phone therapy, etc. How much should therapists talk about their sessions on social media? Here are some internet therapy guideline websites. idahoaheck.org/app/sites/20150/04/idaho-telepsychology-guidelines.pdf, Joint Idaho Psychological Association, Idaho Board of Psychologist Examiners Task Force, Guidelines for Electronic Transmission and Telepsychology in the State of Idaho. socialworkers.org/practice/standards/NASW Technology Standards.pdf, National Association of Social Workers, Standards for Technology and Social Work Practice. nbcc.org/assets/ethics/internetcounseling.pdf, National Board for Certified Counselors and Center for Credentialing and Education, Inc., Policy regarding the provision of distance professional services. psychologistsboard.org.nz/cms_show_download.php?ID=141, New Zealand Psychologists Board, Draft Guidelines, Psychology Services delivered via the Internet and other electronic media. opsych.org/psychologists/files/2011/06/OPA Telepsy-Ogi Guidelines 41710.pdf, Ohio Psychological Association, Telepsychology Guidelines. onlinetherapyinstitute.com/ethical-for-the-use-of-social-media-by-mental-health-professionals, Online Therapy Institute, Ethical Framework for the Use of Social Media by Mental Health Professionals. JAACAP.com/article/S0890-8567 left-08 right-60154-9/PDF, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, EDISAP Practice Parameter for Telepsychiatry with Children and Adolescents. hosted.ap.org/specials/interactive/documents/patient_physician_email.pdf, American Medical Association, Guidelines for Patient-Physician Electronic Mail. jamia.org/cgi/content/abstract/5/1/104, American Medical Informatics Association, Guidelines for the Clinical Use of Electronic Mail with Patients. RANCP.org/files/resources/RANCP-professional-practice-standards-and-guides.aspx, Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists, Professional Practice Standards and Guides for Telepsychiatry. APA-practice-central.org/ce/guidelines/telepsychology-guidelines.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for the Practice of Telepsychology. American TLM.org/resources/standards/ATA-standards-clinical-guidelines-for-telepathology #signed.VG-NG9WQ, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Clinical Guidelines for Telepathology. American TLM.org/resources/standards/ATA-standards-guidelines, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Core Operational Guidelines for Telehealth Services Involving Provider-Patient Interactions. American TLM.org/docs/default-source/standards/evidence-based-for-telemental-health.pdf, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Evidence-Based Practice for Telemental Health. American TLM.org/resources/standards/ATA-standards-guidelines, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Guidelines for Tele-ICU Operations. American TLM.org/resources/standards/ATA-standards-guidelines, American Telemedicine Association, Home Telehealth Clinical Guidelines. American TLM.org/resources/standards/ATA-standards-guidelines, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Practice Guidelines for Video-Based Online Mental Health Services. American TLM.org/resources/standards/ATA-standards-guidelines, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Practice Guidelines for Video Conferencing-Based Telemental Health. cpmb.ca/documents/telepsychology.standards.4 June 2011.pdf, Association of Canadian Psychology Regulatory Organizations, Model Standards for Telepsychology Service Delivery. acto-uk.org/professional-conduct-code-of-ethics, Association for Counseling and Therapy Online, Professional Conduct and Code of Ethics. apic.org/portals/0/downloads/APA%20 telepsychology%20 guidelines.pdf, Association of Psychology Postdoctoral and Internship Centers, Guidelines for the Practice of Telepsychology. socialworkers.org/practice/standards/NASW Technology Standards.pdf, Association of Social Work Boards, Standards for Technology and Social Work Practice. aaswsocialmedia.wikispaces.com/file/view/eg-internet.pdf, Australian Psychological Society, Guidelines for Providing Psychological Services and Products Using the Internet and Telecommunications Technologies. bps.org.uk/system/files/public%20 files/psychological_services_over_the_internet.pdf, British Psychological Society Professional Practice Board, the provision of psychological services via the Internet and other non-direct means. cpa.ca/about-cpa/committees/ethics/psychservices/electronically, Canadian Psychological Association, providing psychological services via electronic media. gpo.gov/fsci/pkg/fr-2011-05-05/pdf/2011-1085.pdf, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Final Rule for Telemedicine Credentialing and Privileging. library.fsmb.org/pdf/2002_grpol_use_of_internet.pdf, Federation of State Medical Boards of the United States, Model Guidelines for the Appropriate Use of the Internet in Medical Practice. annals.org/article.aspx article ID =1675927 number abstract, Federation of State Medical Boards of the United States and American College of Physicians, Online Medical Professionalism, Patient and Public Relationships, Policy Statement. Mental Health Treatment Guidelines for Mental Health Professionals. ncbi.nlm.nih.gov/pubmed/194193882. New Zealand. The Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists. Consumer and Carer Guidelines. rancp.org/resources/clinical-practice-guidelines.html. Canadian Network for Mood and Anxiety Treatments, CanMat. canmat.org. NICE, National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, Clinical Guidelines on Bipolar Disorder. guidance.nice.org.uk/cg38. Mental Health First Aid, MHFA. mhfa.com.au. This website offers members of the public well-researched guidelines about how to help a person who is developing a mental health problem. Informed consent form websites for mental health psychology professionals. When psychologists/therapists/MH professionals conduct research or provide assessment, therapy, or consulting services, they obtain the informed consent of the individual or individuals in clear, simple terms, including: provide an appropriate explanation of what you'll do. Seek the individual's consent. Speak about privacy of the content. Don't make it intimidating. Just say, I'm going to provide the best professional help I can. This is a form that says our relationship will be professional and private. Get a client to sign an informed consent form before you do therapy with him or her so they understand what they're getting into for legal reasons. ajp.psychiatryonline.org/doi/p.10.1176/ap.ajp.158.1.4. Informed Consent in Psychotherapy by John O. Bowers and Thomas G. Gathile. American Journal of Psychiatry. trustinsurance.com/resources/download-documents, informed consent forms from the Trust. drlaurabrown.com/media/psychotherapy consent form.pdf, informed consent for psychotherapy. rochester.edu/ucc/forms/files/intake forms packet.docs, informed consent for assessment and treatment from the University of Rochester Counseling Center. fl-forensic.com/forms/, informed consent to disclose therapy records to the legal system. drkcombs.com/docs/socmed.pdf, my private practice social media policy, information for clients. Center for Ethical Practice.org/form-adolescent consent, adolescent informed consent for psychotherapy from the Center for Ethical Practice. The laws and rules on electronic therapy by state. American Telemedicine Association. AmericanTLM.org. California Telehealth Advancement Act of 2011. legInfo.ca.gov/PUB/1112/bill/ab_0401-0450/bill_201110007_chapter.pdf. Colorado State Board of Psychologist Examiners. Policy 30-1 adopted April 8, 11. Teletherapy Policy, Guidance regarding psychotherapy through electronic means within the state of Colorado. colorado.gov/pacific/dora/psychologist_laws #sign policies. Delaware Board of Examiners of Psychologists Regulations, in CDR 24-3500, Section 18.0 Telepsychology. Regulations.delaware.gov/admin code/title 24/3500.pdf. Telepsychology and Standards for Practicing Telepsychology. As of January 2016, the Licensing Law, Title 24, Chapter 35, Section 3502, 6, defines the practice of psychology to include the use of telemedicine. delcota.delaware.gov/title 24/C035/SC01/index.html. Kentucky statute requires informed consent and maintaining confidentiality when using telehealth. lrc.ky.gov/KRS/319-00/140.pdf. Telehealth and Telepsychology Rule, 201 Car 26, 310, 2010. lrc.ky.gov/KAR/201/026/310.htm. Hawaii Chapter 465, Section 465-3, provides a limited exemption for psychologists employed by the Department of Defense providing telepsychological services. cca.hawaii.gov/pvl/files/2013/08/HRS_PVL_465.pdf. Idaho Code, 54-2305-11, 2013, provides for establishing telepsychology rules. scstatehouse.gov/code/T40C055.php. The Idaho Board of Psychologists examiners with the Idaho Psychological Association adopted guidelines for electronic transmission and telepsychology in the state of Idaho in 2012. idahoaheck.org/app/sites/2/2015/0-4/idaho-telepsychology-guidelines.pdf. Kansas. CAR 102-1-19 requires license in state to practice psychology, regardless of person's location. ksbsrb.org/statutes_regs/regulations-lp.html. Mississippi. Code N. Sect. 7331-3, D, 2, 7, and N. Sect. 7331-14, 3. Practice of psychology includes telecommunications. LexisNexis.com/hot-topics/MS-code. Montana. Administrative Rule 24.189.301, 1. Definition of a professional relationship includes telecommunications. mdrls.org/gateway/rulino.asp, RN equals 24.189.301. Admin Rule 24.189.607, 4, D, 2, includes teleconferencing for postdoctoral supervision. mdrls.org/gateway/rulino.asp, RN equals 24.189.607. New Hampshire. Chapter 329b, Section 329b-16 states that the electronic practice of psychology is subject to standards of care adopted by the New Hampshire Board of Mental Health Practice. genco.urt.state.nh.us/rsa/xxx/329-b/329-b-16.htm. North Dakota. Administrative Rule 43-51-02. elegis.nd.gov/cn code/T43C51.pdf. The North Dakota State Board of Psychologist Examiners. ens.org/upload/2/9/2/4/2924803/FAQ_telepsychology_4-14-15.pdf. Ohio. Ohio Administrative Code, 4732-17-01, I, Telepsychology Rules, 2011. codes.ohio.gov/oac/4732-17, South Carolina. Code Section 40-55-50, C, requires psychology license to provide services in the state including by telecommunications. scstatehouse.gov/code/T40C055.php. Tennessee. Code 63-11-203, A, 2, A, 8, defines telepsychology. lexisnexis.com/hot-topics/TN code. Utah. Administrative Rule R156-61-102, 3, b. dopl.utah.gov/laws/r156-61.pdf. Vermont. Statute Title 26, Chapter 055. legislature.vermont.gov/statutes/section/26/055/03018. sec.state.vt.us/media/6493337/psych-rules adopted-clean-12229-2014.pdf. sec.vt.us/media/6493337/psych-rules adopted-clean-12229-2014.pdf. Wisconsin. Administrative Code Sci 2.14, 2. Chapter 2. Ethics websites for psychology mental health professionals. Psychology ethics websites. aacap_/app_themes/aacap/docs/practice_parameters/atypical_medications_web.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, EDIS-app practice parameter for the use of atypical antipsychotic medications in children and adolescents. aacc.net/about-us/code-of-ethics, American Association of Christian Counselors, Code of Ethics. aamft.org/imis15/content/legal_ethics/code_of_ethics.aspx, American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, AMFET, Code of Ethics. aapb.org/ifora/pages/index.cfm page ID =3306, Association for Applied Psychophysiology and Biofeedback, Ethical Principles of Applied Psychophysiology and Biofeedback. aapc.org/default.aspx SSID =74 NAVP TIPID =1161, American Association of Pastoral Counselors, Code of Ethics. aapc.org/default.aspx SSID =74 NAVP TIPID =1161, American Association of Pastoral Counselors, Code of Ethics. aapl.org/ethics.htm, American Academy of Psychiatry and Law, Ethical Guidelines for the Practice of Forensic Psychiatry. aapl.org/docs/pdf/evaluation %20 of %20 psychiatric %20 disability.pdf, American Academy of Psychiatry and Law, AAPL Practice Guideline for the Forensic Evaluation of Psychiatric Disability. aapl.org/docs/pdf/insanity %20 defense %20 guidelines.pdf, American Academy of Psychiatry and Law, Practice Guideline for Forensic Psychiatric Evaluation of Defendants Raising the Insanity Defense. aapl.org/docs/pdf/competence %20 to %20 stand %20 trial.pdf, American Academy of Psychiatry and Law, AAPL Practice Guideline for the Forensic Psychiatric Evaluation of Competence to Stand Trial. osct.org/code-ethics, American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, Code of Ethics. aasw.asn.au/practitioner-resources/related-documents, Australian Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics. aasw.asn.au/document/item/1201, Australian Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics. aasw.asn.au/publications/ethics-and-standards, Australian Association of Social Workers, Practice Standards for Mental Health Social Workers. aasw.asn.au/publications/ethics-and-standards, Australian Association of Social Workers, Practice Standards for Supervision. abcsw.org/images/competen.pdf, American Board of Examiners in Clinical Social Work, Professional Development and Practice Competencies in Clinical Social Work. abcsw.org/images/care.pdf, American Board of Examiners in Clinical Social Work, Clinical Social Work Standards for Delivery of Care and Guidelines for the Three-Party Model of Clinical Social Work Services. acpa.ncha.edu/ethics, American College Personnel Association, Statement of Ethical Principles and Standards. acp.edu/pdf/2010% sign 20 manuals/2010% sign 20 ethics% sign 20 manual.pdf, Association of Clinical Pastoral Education, Standards and Ethics Manual. acto-uk.org/professional-conduct-code-of-ethics, Association for Counseling and Therapy Online, Professional Conduct and Code of Ethics. afccnet.org/portals/0/public documents/guidelines/BFATF2009 final.pdf, Association of Family and Conciliation Courts, Guidelines for Brief Focused Assessment. afccnet.org/portals/0/models/TDSGLDC Ustodi eval September 2006.pdf, Association of Family and Conciliation Courts, Model Standards of Practice for Child Custody Evaluation. afccnet.org/portals/0/public documents/cefcp/guidelines% sign 20 for% sign 20 court% sign 20 involved% sign 20 therapy% sign 20 afcc.pdf, Association of Family and Conciliation Courts, Guidelines for Court-Involved Therapy. agpa.org/home/practice-practice-guidelines-for-group-psychotherapy, American Group Psychotherapy Association, Practice Guidelines for Group Psychotherapy. agpa.org/home/practice-resources/ethics-in-group-therapy, American Group Psychotherapy Association, Guidelines for Ethics. ama-ss.org/pub/physician-resources/medical-ethics/code-medical-ethics.page, American Medical Association, Principles of Medical Ethics. American tlm.org/docs/default-source/standards/practice-guidelines-for-video conferencing-based-telemental-health.pdf ?SFVRSN = 6, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Practice Guidelines for Video Conferencing-based Telemental Health. American tlm.org/docs/default-source/standards/evidence-based-practice-for-telemental-health.pdf ?SFVRSN = 4, American Telemedicine Association, ATA Evidence-Based Practice for Telemental Health. amca.org/page =Code of Ethics, American Mental Health Counselors Association, Code of Ethics. amca.org/page =Code of Ethics, American Mental Health Counselors Association, Code of Ethics. apa.org/pi/aging/resources/guides/diminished-capacity.pdf, American Bar Association and American Psychological Association, Assessment of Older Adults with Diminished Capacity, a Handbook for Lawyers. apa.org/practice/guidelines/girls-and-women.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Psychological Practice with Girls and Women. apa.org/pi/disability/resources/assessment-disabilities.aspx, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Assessment of and Intervention with Persons with Disabilities. apa.org/science/program/testing/committee.aspx, Joint Committee on Testing Practices, Code of Fair Testing Practices in Education. apa.org/science/program/testing/rights.aspx, American Psychological Association, Rights and Responsibilities of Test Takers, Guidelines and Expectations. apa.org/pi/oems/resources/policy/multicultural-guidelines.aspx, American Psychological Association, Guidelines on Multicultural Education Training, Research, Practice, and Organizational Change for Psychologists. apa.org/practice/guidelines/dementia.aspx, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for the Evaluation of Dementia and Age-Related Cognitive Decline. apa.org/practice/guidelines/parenting-coordination.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for the Practice of Parenting Coordination. apa.org/practice/guidelines/child-protection.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Psychological Evaluations in Child Protection Matters. apa.org/practice/guidelines/glbt.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Psychotherapy with Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Clients. apa.org/practice/guidelines/forensic-psychology.aspx, American Academy of Forensic Psychology, Specialty Guidelines. apa.org/practice/guidelines/older-adults.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Psychological Practice with Older Adults. apa.org/pi/lgbt/resources/guidelines.aspx, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Psychological Practice with Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Clients. apa.org/pi/aging/resources/guides/judges-diminished.pdf, American Bar Association, American Psychological Association and National College of Probate Judges, Judicial Determination of Capacity of Older Adults in Guardianship Proceedings. apa.org/practice/guidelines/pharmacological-issues.pdf, American Psychological Association, Practice Guidelines regarding psychologists' involvement in pharmacological issues. apa.org/pub/info/reports/pens.pdf, American Psychological Association, Report of the American Psychological Association Presidential Task Force on Psychological Ethics and National Security. apa.org/ethics/code/index.aspx, American Psychological Association, Ethical Principles of Psychologists and Code of Conduct. apa.org/science/leadership/care/guidelines.aspx, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Ethical Conduct in the Care and Use of Non-Human Animals. apa.org/pub/info/reports/ascol.aspx, American Psychological Association, Report from APA Working Group on Assisted Suicide and End-of-Life Decisions. apa.org/practice/guidelines/delivery-systems.aspx, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Psychological Practice in Healthcare Delivery Systems. apa.org/pi/lgbt/resources/sexual-orientation.aspx, American Psychological Association, Resolution on Appropriate Therapeutic Responses to Sexual Orientation. apa.practice-central.org/ce/guidelines/record-keeping.aspx, American Psychological Association, Record Keeping Guidelines. apa.practice-central.org/news/guidelines.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for Child Custody Evaluations in Family Law Proceedings. apa.practice-central.org/ce/guidelines/telepsychology-guidelines.pdf, American Psychological Association, Guidelines for the Practice of Telepsychology. apsa.org/code-of-ethics, American Psychoanalytic Association, Principles and Standards of Ethics for Psychoanalysts. apsa.org/code-of-ethics, American Psychoanalytic Association, Principles and Standards of Ethics for Psychoanalysts. asgw.org, Association for Specialists in Group Work Best Practice Guidelines. asbpb.org/publications/model/conduct.aspx, Association of State and Provincial Psychology Boards, Code of Conduct. association.get_file/3395, National Career Development Association, Ethical Standards. Associationsites.com/csw/collection/fcs%20 code %20 locked %2006.pdf, Clinical Social Work Association, Code of Ethics. atsa.com/pdfs/coe.pdf, Association for the Treatment of Sexual Abusers, Professional Code of Ethics. bacp.co.uk/ethical_framework/good_standard.php, British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, providing a good standard of practice and care. bacp.co.uk/ethical_framework/ British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, Ethical Framework for Good Practice in Counselling and Psychotherapy. bacp.co.uk/ethical_framework, British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, Ethical Framework for Good Practice in Counselling and Psychotherapy. basw.co.uk/Code of Ethics, British Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics for Social Work. bbs.ca.gov/consumer/consumer_psych_online.html, California Board of Behavioral Sciences, Notice to California consumers regarding online psychotherapy. bbs.ca.gov/consumer/consumer_psych_online.html, California Board of Behavioral Sciences, Notice to California consumers regarding psychotherapy on the Internet. bc-cellulnselors.org/general/code-of-ethical-standards-of-clinical-practice, British Columbia Association for Clinical Counselors, Code of Ethical Conduct and Standards of Clinical Practice. bc-cellulnselors.org/code-of-ethical-conduct-of-clinical-practice/ British Columbia Association of Clinical Counselors, Code of Ethical Conduct. bdp-verband.org/bdp/verban/ethic.html, German Psychological Society, DGP, and the Association of German Professional Psychologists, BDP, Ethical Principles and Code of Conduct of the Association of German Professional Psychologists. bps.org.uk/sites/default/files/documents/code_ethics_and_conduct.pdf, British Psychological Society, Ethics, Rules, Charter, Code of Conduct. c.ymcdn.com/sites/acom.siteim.com/resource/resmgr/docs/aclm expert witness guideline.pdf, American Board of Independent Medical Examiners, Guidelines of Conduct. c.ymcdn.com/sites/energy-psych.siteim.com/resource/ethics/asep_code_of_ethics_stand.pdf, Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology, Code of Ethics. capsdot.ca/docs/my-the-assessment-for-the-psychological-assessment-of-and-impairment.pdf?mark/SFVRSN=0, Canadian Academy of Psychologists in Disability Assessment, Practice Standards for the Psychological Assessment of Disability and Impairment. caps.net/index.php
#view=*253:statement-of-ethical-guidelines=*cat ID=119:statement-of-ethical-guidelines=item ID=sign 257, Christian Association for Psychological Studies, Ethics Statement. casw.ac/sites/defaults/files/attachments/kw_guidelines_for %sign 20 ethical_practice_e.pdf, Canadian Association of Social Workers, Guidelines for Ethical Practice.
casw.ca/what-social-work/CAW-code-ethics, Canadian Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics. ccacc.ca/documents/code of ethics_n_new.pdf, Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapy Association, Code of Ethics. ccpa-acc.ca/wp-content/upload/2014/10/code of ethics_n.pdf, Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapy Association, Code of Ethics. ccpa-acc.ca/ethics, Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapy Association, Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice. cdn.basw.co.uk/upload/basw_112315-7.pdf, British Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics for Social Work. chsbuffalo.org/files/pdf/erds_5th/091118_final.pdf, Catholic Church, Ethical and Religious Directives for Catholic Healthcare Services. College of Psychologists.bc.ca/docs/old-pda/practice% signed 20 Advisory 1 Billing for Services.pdf, British Columbia College of Psychologists, billing for services that are psychological in nature but rendered by a non-registrant. collegeofpsychologists.soft.com/docs/10.code-of-conduct.pdf, British Columbia College of Psychologists, Code of Conduct. counseling.org/docs/ethics/algbtic-2012-07.pdf ?SFVRSN =2, Association for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Issues in Counseling, ALGBTIC, Competencies for Counseling with Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Queer, Questioning, Intersex and all individuals. counseling.org/resources/ACA-code-of-ethics.pdf, American Counseling Association, 2014 Code of Ethics. counseling.org/resources/ACA-code-of-ethics.pdf, American Counseling Association, Code of Ethics. cpa-apc.org/publications/clinical_guidelines/depression/clinical guidelines/depression.asp, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Clinical Practice Guidelines, Treatment of Depressive Disorders. cpa-apc.org/French_site/publications/position_papers/cma.asp. Canadian Psychiatric Association, the CMA Code of Ethics annotated for psychiatrists. cpa-apc.org/French_site/publications/position_papers/cma.asp, Canadian Psychiatric Association, the CMA Code of Ethics annotated for psychiatrists. cpa.ca/about-cpa/committees/ethics/ethical guidelines for supervision in psychology, Canadian Psychological Association, Ethical Guidelines for Supervision in Psychology, Teaching, Research, Practice, and Administration. cpa.ca/about-cpa/committees/ethics/psychservices/electronically, Canadian Psychological Association, providing psychological services via electronic media. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/publications/practice% signed 20 guidelines 2001 left (2 right) .pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Practice Guidelines for Providers of Psychological Services. cpa.ca/docs/files/ethics/cpa_code_feb 2015 draft dist.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Canadian Code of Ethics for Psychologists. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/Canadian signed 20 code signed 20 of signed 20 ethics signed 20 for signed 20 psycho.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Canadian Code of Ethics for Psychologists. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/Canadian %sign 20 code %sign 20 of %sign 20 ethics %sign 20 for %sign 20 psycho.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Code of Ethics. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/publications/non-dscprac-tref cpa.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Guidelines for Non-Discriminatory Practice. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/publications/guidelines %sign 20 for %sign 20 psychological %sign 20 practice %sign 20 women.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Guidelines for Ethical Psychological Practice with Women. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/tpo rationale 09.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Presence of Involved Third-Party Observer in Neuropsychological Assessments. cpa.ca/docs/files/ethics/cpa_code_feb 2015 draft dist.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Draft of Canadian Code of Ethics for Psychologists 4th edition. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/Canadian %sign 20 code %sign 20 of %sign 20 ethics %sign 20 for %sign 20 psycho.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Canadian Code of Ethics for Psychologists. cpa.ca/about cpa/committees/ethics/psychservices/electronically, Canadian Psychological Association, Ethical Guidelines for Psychologists providing psychological services via electronic media. cpa.ca/cpa-site/user files/documents/publications/cpa %sign 20 practice %sign 20 guide.pdf, Canadian Psychological Association, Professional Practice Guidelines for School Psychologists in Canada. crc.com/pages/crc_code_of_ethics/10.php, Commission on Rehabilitation Counselor Certification, Code of Professional Ethics. Download.journals.elsevier-health.com/pdfs/journals/0890567/PIIS089085671100883.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, EDIS-app Practice Parameter for the Assessment and Treatment of Children and Adolescents with Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. Download.journals.elsevier-health.com/pdfs/journals/089056712001414.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, EDIS-app Practice Parameter for Psychodynamic Psychotherapy with Children. Download.journals.elsevier-health.com/pdfs/journals/0890567120050x.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, EDIS-app Practice Parameter on Gay, Lesbian, or Bisexual Sexual Orientation, Gender Nonconformity, and Gender Discordance in Children and Adolescents. Download.journals.elsevier-health.com/pdfs/journals/0890567096015601568.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, EDIS-app Practice Parameter on the Use of Psychotropic Medication in Children and Adolescents. Download.journals.elsevier-health.com/pdfs/journals/089056709600198.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, EDIS-app Practice Parameter for the Psychiatric Assessment and Management of Physically Ill Children and Adolescents. download.journals.elseofyourhealth.com/pdfs/journals/0890-567/PIIS089056710000821.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, epub practice parameter for the assessment and treatment of children and adolescents with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Download.journals.elseofyourhealth.com/pdfs/journals/0890-56711008835.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, epub practice parameter for child and adolescent forensic evaluations. Download.journals.elseofyourhealth.com/pdfs/journals/0890-857/PIIS0890856708549.pdf, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, epub practice parameter for telepsychiatry with children and adolescents. eabp.org/ethics.php, European Association for Body Psychotherapy, Ethical Guidelines and Code. eabp.org/ethics.php, European Association for Body Psychotherapy, Ethical Guidelines and Code. eagala.org/ethics, Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association Code of Ethics for Equine Assisted Psychotherapy. eapAssociation.org/portals/11/docs/about/eapACADIOF Ethics 0809.pdf, Employee Assistance Professionals Association, EAPA Code of Ethics. en.psychoanalysis.ca/about-cps/ethics, Canadian Psychoanalytic Society, Principles of Ethics for Psychoanalysis. FamilyTherapyIreland.com/organization/code-of-ethics, Family Therapy Association of Ireland, Code of Ethics. ForensicNurses.org/?page =Vision Ethica LPR Act, International Association of Forensic Nurses, Vision of Ethical Practice. fsmb.org/media/default/pdf/advocacy/pub-social-media-guidelines.pdf, Federation of State Medical Boards of the United States Model Policy Guidelines for the Appropriate Use of Social Media and Social Networking in Medical Practice. fsmb.org/media/default/fsmb/advocacy/grpol_sexual%20boundaries.pdf, Federation of State Medical Boards of the United States, Addressing Sexual Boundaries Guidelines for State Medical Boards. fsmb.org/media/default/fsmb/advocacy/grpol_sexual%20boundaries.pdf, Federation of State Medical Boards, Addressing Sexual Boundaries, Guidelines for State Medical Boards. gpo.gov/FCE/PKG/FR-2011-05/05/05/05/1085.pdf, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Final Rule for Telemedicine Credentialing and Privileging. hon.ch/honcode/conduct.html, Health on the Net Foundation, Code of Conduct for Medical and Health Websites. Hosted.ap.org/specials/interactive/documents/patient_physician_email.pdf, American Medical Association, Guidelines for Patient-Physician Electronic Mail. Hypnotherapist.org.uk/standards/ethics.asp, National Council for Hypnotherapy, Code of Ethics and Conduct. imfconline.org/public/department3.cfm, International Association of Marriage and Family Counselors, Ethical Code. ifsw.org/policies/code-of-ethics, International Federation of Social Workers, Ethics of Social Work Statement of Principles, 2012. irish-counsellingIE/IACP-code-of-ethics, Irish Association for Counseling and Psychotherapy, Code of Ethics and Practice for Counselors/Psychotherapists. irish-counseling.ie/iacp-code-of-ethics, Irish Association for Counseling and Therapy, Code of Ethics and Practice. irish-counseling.ie/iacp-code-of-ethics, Irish Association for Counseling and Therapy, Code of Ethics and Practice. isfcp.net/ethics.htm, International Society for Coaching Psychology, ISCP Code of Ethics. ipsa-web.org/wp-content/upload/2013/01/the_code_of_ethics_code_of_of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of-of isst-d.org/default.asp Content ID =49, International Society for the Study of Dissociation, Treatment Guidelines, Adults with Dissociative Identity Disorder. isst-d.org/default.asp Content ID =50, International Society for the Study of Dissociation, Treatment Guidelines, Children with Dissociative Symptoms. iupseas.net/about/governance/universal-ethical-principles-for-psychologists.html, International Union of Psychological Science, Universal Declaration of Ethical Principles for Psychologists. iupseas.net/about/governance/universal-ethical-principles-for-psychologists.html, International Association of Applied Psychology, Universal Declaration of Ethical Principles for Psychologists. jamia.oxfordjournals.org/content/gyminfo/5/1/104.full.pdf, American Medical Informatics Association, Guidelines for the Clinical Use of Electronic Mail with Patients. ksbope.com/ethics/boundary.php, A Practical Approach to Boundaries in Psychotherapy, Making Decisions, Bypassing Blunders, and Mending Fences. ksbope.com/psychologyethics.php, ksbope.com/ethics/index.php, Ethics and Malpractice. marinCamFT.org/resources/documents/camft %sign 20 code %sign 20 of %sign 20 ethics.pdf, California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, Ethical Standards. marinCamFT.org/resources/documents/camft %sign 20 code %sign 20 of %sign 20 ethics.pdf, California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, Ethical Standards. musictherapy.org/about/ethics, American Music Therapy Association, Code of Ethics. musictherapy.org/about/ethics, American Music Therapy Association, Code of Ethics. nadac.org/resources/code of ethics, National Association of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Counselors, NADAC Code of Ethics. nadac.org/code-of-ethics, Association of Addiction Specialists, NADAC/NCCAP Code of Ethics. nasbonline.org/documents/standards %sign 20 and %sign 20 certification/standards/1_ %sign 20 ethical %sign 20 principles.pdf, National Association of School Psychologists, Professional Conduct Manual Principles for Professional Ethics. naswdc.org/pub/code/default.asp, National Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics. nationalafc.com/images/files/nafc %sign 20 ethical %sign 20 standards %sign 20 and %sign 20 code %sign 20 of %sign 20 conduct.pdf, National Association of Forensic Counselors, Ethical Standards and Code of Conduct. nbcc.org/ethics, National Board for Certified Counselors, Code of Ethics. nbcc.org/assets/ethics/internetcounseling.pdf nbcc.org/assets/ethics/nbcc-code-of-ethics.pdf, National Board for Certified Counselors, Code of Ethics. nlpa.ws/assets/nlpa %20 guidelines %20 mental %20 health %20 professionals %20 jan %20202015.pdf, National Latina/O Psychological Association, NLPA. nlpa.ws/assets/nlpa %20 guidelines %20 mental %20 health %20 professionals %20 jan %20202015.pdf, guidelines for mental health professionals working with unaccompanied asylum-seeking minors. nofsw.org/nofsw_code_of_ethics.doc, National Organization of Forensic Social Work, Code of Ethics. nsna.org/portals/0/skins/nsna/pdf/pubs_code of professional conduct.pdf, National Student Nurses Association, Code of Professional Conduct. nursingworld.org/code of ethics, American Nursing Association, Code of Ethics for Nurses. nzac.org.nz/code_of_ethics.cfm, New Zealand Association of Counsellors, Code of Ethics. opsych.org/psychologists/files/2011/06/OPA telepsychology guidelines 41710.pdf, Ohio Psychological Association, telepsychology guidelines. onlinetherapyinstitute.com/ethical-for-the-use-of-social-media-health-professionals, Online Therapy Institute, ethical framework for the use of social media by mental health professionals. pediatrics.aapppublications.org/content/132/2/E558, American Academy of Pediatrics, the evaluation of children in the primary care setting when sexual abuse is suspected. pediatrics.aapppublications.org/content/116/2/506, American Academy of Pediatrics, the evaluation of sexual abuse in children. policechiefmagazine.org/magazine/index.cfm $?!@article_ID=issue_ID=82007, International Association of Chiefs of Police Psychological Services Section, Guidelines for Consulting Police Psychologists. policechiefmagazine.org/magazine/index.cfm $?article_ID=699$issue_ID=92005, International Association of Chiefs of Police, Collection of Guidelines. policybase.cma.ca/dbt/wpd/pd04-06.pdf, Canadian Medical Association, Code of Ethics. professional-chaplains.org/files/professional-standards/professional-code_of-ethics.pdf, Association of Professional Chaplains, Code of Ethics. psychiatry.org/practice/ethics/resources-standards, American Psychiatric Association, 2013 Principles of Medical Ethics with annotations especially applicable to psychiatry. psychiatry.org/practice/ethics/resources-standards, American Psychiatric Association, Opinions of the Ethics Committee on the Principles of Medical Ethics. psychologicalsociety.ie/find-a-psychologist/psy %sign 202011-12% sign 20 code %sign 20 of %sign 20 ethics.pdf, Psychological Society of Ireland, Code of Professional Ethics. psychologicalsociety.ie/find-a-psychologist/psy %sign 202011-12% sign 20 code %sign 20 of %sign 20 ethics.pdf, Psychological Society of Ireland, Code of Professional Ethics. psychologistsport.org.nz/cms_show_download.php?id=31, New Zealand Psychological Society, Code of Ethics. psychologistsport.org.nz/cms_show_download.php?id=141, New Zealand Psychologists Board, Draft Guidelines, Psychology services delivered via the Internet and other electronic media. psychology.org.au/about/ethics, Australian Psychological Society, Ethical Guidelines. psychology.org.au/about/ethics, Australian Psychological Society, Code of Ethics. Publication ethics.org/resources/code-conduct, Committee on Publication Ethics, Codes of Conduct and Best Practices Guidelines. publications.cpA-apc.org/media.php?154$XWM=true, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Duty to Protect. publications.cpA-apc.org/media.php?121$XWM=true, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Confidentiality of Psychiatric Records and the Patient's Right to Privacy. publications.cpA-apc.org/media.php?mid=924, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Fiduciary Duty of Psychiatrists. publications.cpA-apc.org/media.php?mid=1072, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Psychiatrists' Role in Addressing Stigma and Discrimination. publications.cpA-apc.org/browse/documents/213, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Clinical Practice Guidelines, Management of Anxiety Disorders. publications.cpA-apc.org/media.php?mid=733$XWM=true, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Media Guidelines for Reporting Suicide. publications.cpA-apc.org/media.php?mid=117$XWM=true, Canadian Psychiatric Association, Implications for Psychiatrists of the Supreme Court of Canada Starson v. Swayze decision. rancp.org/files/rancp-attachments/resources/college_statements/code_ethics_2010-pdf.aspx, Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists, Code of Ethics. rancp.org/files/rancp-attachments/resources/college_statements/code_ethics_2010-pdf.aspx, Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists Guide to Ethical Principles in the Relationship between Psychiatrists and the Healthcare Industry. rancp.org/files/resources/college_statements/ethical_code-tolerance-policy-on-proven-sexual-b.aspx, Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists, Zero Tolerance Policy on Proven Sexual Boundary Violations. site.ed-ym.com/resource/resmgr/docs/aclm-expert-witness-guideline.pdf, American College of Legal Medicine, ACLM Guidelines on the Ethical Conduct of the Expert Witness. socialworkers.org/practice/standards/NASW technology-standards.pdf, National Association of Social Workers and Association of Social Work Boards, Standards for Technology and Social Work Practice. socialworkers.org/pub/code/default.asp, National Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics. socialworkers.org/pub/code/default.asp, National Association of Social Workers, Code of Ethics. srcd.org/about-us/ethical-standards-research, Society for Research in Child Development, Ethical Standards for Research with Children. 10phonline.com/doi/pdf/10.1076/clinpoint15.4.433.1888, American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology, AACN Policy Statement on the Presence of Third-Party Observers in Neuropsychological Assessment. 10phonline.com/doi/10.1076/clinpoint17.4.443.27943, American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology, AACN Position of the American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology on ethical complaints made against clinical neuropsychologists during adversarial proceedings. 10df online.com/doi/pdf/1076/1385-4046% signed 281999911% signed 2913% signed 3a04% signed 3b1-y% signed 3bft385, American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology, AACN Policy on the Use of Non-Doctoral Level Personnel in Conducting Clinical Neuropsychological Evaluations. 10df online.com/doi/full/10.10800/13825580601025932, American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology, AACN Practice Guidelines for Neuropsychological Assessment and Consultation. TorontoPsychoanalysis.com/about-us/principles-of-ethics, Toronto Psychoanalytic Society and Institute, Principles of Ethics. views.vcu.edu/nap/ethics.htm, National Academies of Practice, Ethical Guidelines for Professional Care and Services in a Managed Healthcare Environment. wicounseling.org/resource/resmgr/imported/internetcounseling.pdf, National Board for Certified Counselors and Center for Credentialing and Education, Inc., The Practice of Internet Counseling. wma.net/en/30 publications/30 ethics manual/index.html, World Medical Association, Ethics Policies. wpath.org/uploaded_files/140/files/standards %20 of %20 care, %20 v7 %20 full %20 book.pdf, World Professional Association for Transgender Health, Standards of Care for the Health of Transsexual, Transgender, and Gender Nonconforming People. wvita.state.wv.us/institutional/counselors/ASCIA ethical standards.pdf, American School Counselor Association, Ethical Standards for School Counselors.